What resists persists. The real explanation behind that and understanding how to actually start making changes. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Mind Engineer community. Here, Tommy Walker. And I want to talk about this amazing topic that so many people talk about, what resists persists, but very few really go deep into the understanding why that happens. Please share in the chat if you have heard before this phrase, what resists persists. Put in the chat and I read you afterwards in the comments. I would love to hear that from you. And I've been in personal development now for 17 years, and I've heard so many people talking about what resists persists. But very few, at least in my personal opinion, have really been able to explain what is going on. Why is the mind actually resisting, right? Why is the mind persisting when we resist something, right? So today I want to explain to you what is really going on deep down to help you actually start making changes. So one of the things that I want to share with you guys again is to understand that how the mind works. When we're born to this world, we come with a blank slate. We don't have any beliefs. We don't understand what love is, what mistakes is, what communication is, what love is. We don't know any of those things. And we start learning from our environment. So mostly we start learning from mom and dad. Those are the two main, or whether it is mom or dad, or it could be your caregivers. The main caregivers in your life are going to be the people that you're going to learn from. So we learn how mom treats herself, how mom treats dad, and how mom mainly treats me. Also maybe my siblings, but the main thing is mom, how she treats herself, how she treats dad, and how she treats me. Then we're going to learn from dad how he treats himself, how he treats mom, and how he treats us. From there, we get our own way of seeing life. It's a very unique, because different siblings, and I've seen this, they can think very different, even having the same parents, okay? So it has to do with a combination of that and what then I take from those interactions. So as I have been speaking for so long about the subconscious mind and the inner child, when we were kids, remember that the main thing that we want, the main thing that we need is to feel loved and accepted. So what happens is that I work with a lot of people that they struggle with not being able to let go. People struggling with control, people, maybe acting mean towards their kids, toward their partner, toward other people, and they don't understand why. And I've heard some people say I'm becoming more and more my mom, more and more my dad. Why does that happen? And although they try to change, right, and they try to push away those behaviors, those whatever, attitudes, behaviors, in other ways, addictions maybe. Once I was working with a guy, and although he had tried many things to stop drinking, he wasn't able to. So he was resisting to stop drinking. He was resisting to drink, right? But it was persistent. He would always go back to drinking. So I shared with him this, what I'm going to share with you, that really blew my mind when I learned about it and I was able to digest it and really take it in, because this is something that very few people talk about. That's why a lot of people, although they try to make changes, what they're resisting persists. And today you're going to understand what is going deep down, what's going on deep down in your mind, in the subconscious mind that is creating that. So look at this. Although this guy had tried many things to stop drinking, he would continue drinking. So it makes sense, what resists persists. But why? Why? That is the $1,000,000,000 question of why does he continue drinking if he wants to stop drinking? And I hope you take this serious, guys, because I'm going to explain in a very basic way, very easy way to understand. And for your mind, it's going to sound so basic, so simple that for many people, they find it hard to understand. Seriously, they find it hard to accept, not to understand, but to accept. So look at this. This person that was drinking, okay, although he had tried therapy, psychology, many different things, he, in all those therapies and all those sessions, he was trying to change. So when he was trying to change the message that he was taking in, the message that his inner child or subconscious mind was receiving, is that he was doing something wrong. So bear with me with that a second. So when you try to change, when you focus on changing, when you are trying to get rid of a behavior, what you're actually telling yourself is that you're doing something wrong. Stick with that for a second. I'm going to circle back to that. Let's go to understand a bit more. So in his case, as we started going deeper, he was able to finally realize, and it was shocking for me that nobody that he had worked before had helped him realize this. He finally realized that he wanted to feel loved and accepted, and mom and dad were also struggling with alcoholism. Mom and dad were struggling with alcohol. So as mom and dad were using drinking to numb their pain, he was also doing it, but deeper down, there was a part of him very deep that said, if I'm like mom and dad, they might love me. If I'm like mom or dad, they might love me. So listen to this. The part of him that started drinking because of a lack of love. And that part of him, that inner child, thought that if he would drink, he would finally be loved by mom and dad. Now let's connect what I just said 2 minutes ago. When he started trying to resist, or when he started telling himself that he should stop drinking, his inner child received the message that he was doing something wrong. So what his inner child didn't receive loved, started thinking that it needed to do what it was trying to do even better. I know it sounds weird, but his inner child, his subconscious mind, tried more drinking, because if what I was doing before wasn't enough to receive love, maybe if I do more, I'm going to be finally loved and accepted. And you can take that to anything. The other day I was working with a person, a man, that was trying to control. And he realized that he was feeling that he was behaving more and more similar as mom. And he didn't want that. So he was rejecting being like mom. But he didn't realize that by rejecting being like mom, he was rejecting a part of him that wanted to be loved. That's why he was doing what he was doing, the control, being like mom. So let's put everything together. We have an inner child that wanted to be loved and accepted. So it took behaviors, it took different type of things to try to feel loved and accepted. Now you're judging it, that part of you, you're judging that inner child for trying to feel loved and accepted. So the inner child receives the message, you're doing something wrong, and the inner child in that survival mechanism is going to do more of what it thinks that is going to bring love and acceptance. But unfortunately, doing more of what you don't want is you rejecting yourself more. You rejecting yourself more creates more of what you don't want. Think about that, please, because this is the core of why it is so difficult to make changes. Because in coaching, in personal development, in spirituality, in whatever technique you're looking for, in most of them, people are trying to change. So telling myself that I need to stop drinking, for this guy that I was working with, telling himself that he needed to stop drinking meant his interpretation was, you are doing something wrong, you're not good enough, you're not lovable. So the mind goes into survival mode. I need to feel loved. I need to do more of this. So it holds on even stronger to what you're trying to get rid of. So the more you judge yourself, criticize, reject yourself for the behaviors that you're having, you're going to get more of that behavior because your inner child, it's all it knows to do that behavior to maybe be loved and accepted. So now that you understand the deeper concept of why what resists persists, now I want to introduce how to stop that cycle, how to dissolve that cycle, not to go into war with a part of you, because whenever you try to change something, you're telling yourself that you're doing something wrong. Again, yes, whenever you want to change something, you're telling yourself that you're doing something wrong. If you're doing something wrong, it creates pain. Pain gets you into survival mode. It activates the sympathetic nervous system. It's fight or flight mode. And in this fight or flight mode, you're going to do more of what you were doing, not less. For most people, they're going to do more. For most, not for everyone. For most, they're going to do more of what they're trying to change. So instead of trying to change, the idea is to give yourself a big hug and thank that part of you that has been doing this, whatever that is, control, smoking, sex, work, porn, whatever it is, doesn't matter. That part of you was seeking to be loved or numbing the pain of the lack of love. In this case, if you are behaving like mom or dad and you don't like it, the more you reject it, the more chances you're going to show up as your mom or your dad. Because out of pain, you create more of what you don't want. That's why so many people have such a hard time to make behavioral changes. Because it's not about beating yourself up. It's not about denying. It's not about not accepting. It's not about pushing. It's not about beating yourself up. Most of the people that I work with, doesn't matter how much personal development, psychology, therapy, whatever they did, most of them, they're still beating themselves up to make changes. That tells me something very alarming. Because instead of being taught people how to love and accept the part of them that has learned that behavior to protect itself, to find love, maybe to be loved by mom or dad, because the lack of love created that behavior. What is going to dissolve that behavior is love. Yes, I know it sounds so basic, so corny, whatever you want to call it. But what is going to change the world is that unconditional love to every part of me. The part of me that is trying to control. The part of me that is, I don't know, beating me up. The part of me that is being very critic to me. That part of me was created out of a lack of love. So if I want to be able to dissolve it, not need it anymore, that behavior, I need to give what was lacking at the beginning, love. So one of the main things that we do is, today I had a person that said, tell me, okay, what can I take as homework? Talking to myself, I told her, talk to yourself and say, hey, I'm sorry I judged you in the past. I'm sorry I was so hard on you. I'm sorry I treated you like crap. I'm sorry I beat you up. I'm sorry I rejected you. I'm sorry that whatever. Start taking responsibility that you have been beating yourself up, judging, criticizing, rejecting, any variation of that, first to yourself. And people tell me, but Tommy, I want to get rid of this. I don't want more of this. Yeah. But isn't the beating, has the beating yourself up, criticizing yourself, got you to that place where you don't do that anymore? And most of the people that I talk to me for the first time or I'm working with, all of them have tried in the past beating themselves up. And nearly any of them have been able to change that behavior that they're beating themselves up for. So if it's not working, something needs to change. If you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to get the same results. If nothing changes, nothing changes. So what I have seen in all these years of experience working with thousands of people around the world is that love regulates the nervous system, not controls, regulates it. If it's in fight or flight mode, I can help it bring it down with that unconditional love. Then hey, I'm sorry I have treated you like this. I didn't realize what was going on. So I addressed what I did. I also addressed what mom and dad did. If mom and dad were not there for me, I need to tell those parts of me why mom and dad were not there for them. It could be that mom and dad had their own limitations. Mom and dad had their own unresolved issues. That's why they were not able to be there for me. The mind changes through love and understanding, changing perspective. But I need to go back to my past events that the mind is using to project a potential future to work on dissolving, loving and accepting that inner child that is trying to feel loved in whatever that is. People tell you, but Tommy, self-sabotage has no benefit. Yes, it does. Perfectionism. Today I was arguing with somebody and she said, oh, Tommy, I many times fall into perfectionism. I said, what is the benefit? And she's like, no benefit. Everybody at the beginning answers the same thing. There's no benefit. But I'm going to tell you something, guys. There is nothing that the mind does if it has no benefit. Sorry, let's put it a different way. The mind doesn't do anything that has no benefit. You might not understand it. You might not get it. But that doesn't mean that it has no benefit. And I'm going to give you an example, okay? Imagine that you're self-sabotaging and you want to stop self-sabotage. Again, a part of you is self-sabotaging as a protective mechanism. And people say, like, Tommy, protecting from what? So I asked them, if you do what you want to do and it doesn't go as expected, how do you treat yourself? So most people, when I ask them that question, how do they treat themselves if things don't go the way they expected, they tell me that they normally beat themselves up. So the mind says, what hurts more? The beating after things don't go as expected, or the beating if I don't even try? And for most people, what hurts less is the beating if I don't do. What hurts most is if I try and it doesn't go as expected. So the mind is trying to protect you. Even self-sabotage is a protective mechanism. Procrastination is a protective mechanism. Analysis paralysis is a protective mechanism. Being tired all day normally is a symptom or a protective mechanism. So normally there is something going on much deeper that we need to explore. And that's exactly what I do with the people that I work with. Help them understand and explore their own mind, to love and accept the different parts of them. And eventually what that brings is the dissolving of the behaviors that they've been struggling so many years to change. Because again, the more you tell yourself that you need to change, the more you tell yourself that you're doing something wrong, what you're doing is judging, criticizing, rejecting, is creating less love. That part of you goes into automatic pilot, into survival mode, and it's going to do more of what it has learned, whatever that is. If it has learned that through drinking, maybe I'm going to feel loved and accepted by my parents, I'm going to do more of it. If I do control and I beat myself up because I'm controlling, I'm going to do more control. Very few people change through authoritarianism. And when they change, it creates a disconnect inside of them. They're changing through authoritarianism, creates disconnect, solitude, aloneness. So I work with a lot of people who have been able to make big changes in their life, but deep down, they feel empty. Deep down, they feel alone. Deep down, they're still hurting. And yeah, they were able to make a change, but it was not in the most healthy way. So remember, every part of you that is behaving in a specific way, the more you resist, persists. And not just because that's a universal law. No, there is an explanation behind that. Because your inner child receives the message that it's not good enough, that it's not lovable, that there's something wrong with her, with him. And it goes into survival mode and it says, I need to do more of this, whatever that is. Even if you're rejecting it, it has learned that it needs to do more of what you want to change. So it's not about fighting yourself, it's about loving and accepting the different parts of you that will eventually start dissolving the behaviors that you're so much trying to change. So I hope that makes sense. I hear so many people talking about what resist persists, but seriously, when I ask around, most people have no idea why that happens. They just, oh, this person says, oh, yeah, I've seen it. When you resist persists. Why? I don't know. Universal law, right? It's just, that's what it is. No, there's always an explanation behind that. And that's what I love doing, is exploring the mind to understand why it's behaving the way it is. And this, at least for me, made so much sense, that you are rejecting the inner child for doing something to try to get love, and it's going to do more of what it thinks is going to bring love. But the more you're able to love and accept that part of you, even if it keeps seeking the drinking, the smoking, the behavior, whatever, that same unconditional love is going to eventually dissolve what you've been trying to change. So please let me know in the comments what you think about this. If it makes sense, if you heard it before, please, where did you hear this before? I would love to hear it. I, in my experience, haven't heard much about this in the past, 6, 7 years that I've been studying other people. I started studying personal development 17 years ago with different people. One of my biggest mentor, Margaret Paul, that's inner child healing, inner bonding, Gabor Mate, Bessel van der Kolk, and many other authors. But the mainstream that we see out there, most of them, they don't talk about it. They just say, throw it out easily, what resists persists. But I've never heard an explanation of why it happens. But if we understand that there's a part of you that is needing love, we're going to give it love. What you're seeing is the symptom. So when you see a part of you trying to control, when you see a part of you that is doing something that it shouldn't, quote unquote, that is an alarm that is telling you that there's parts of you that don't feel loved and accepted by you. By you, and only you. Not by your partners, not by your kids, not by anybody else, by you. Work on that self-love, unconditional love, and I promise your life can start changing. I cannot say how fast, but I can tell you, it's like going to the gym. Eventually, if you go to the gym and do the work, your body starts to change. If you eat healthy, your body is going to change. How much is it going to take? It depends on each person. But the truth is, it can change. Because I truly believe that we're spiritual beings living a human experience. And the most purest spiritual experience is unconditional love. There's no other spiritual true experience that doesn't involve the ego. I can do anything with the ego there. The unconditional love of the parts of me, the ego cannot do that. The ego can control, the ego can pretend, but the ego cannot love unconditionally. That's the only true spiritual experience that we can have where the ego cannot be involved. You can meditate through ego. You can do prayers through ego. God, please take this pain away. Ego, control. Please, God, help me with this. Ego, control. Spirit, true spirit, loves and accepts what is. And I'm not saying I'm there all the time, but I'm better than I was many years ago fighting against the things that were destroying my health, my body, my mind, my spirit. And as I started working with this, it really helped me start making changes. And that's what I'm sharing here. So again, I hope that makes sense. Let me know what you think in the comments. I would really like to hear your comments about this, if it makes sense. And if you would like to know more, write the word free and I'll share free training with more insight. And if you want help with this is the work that I do with the people I work with, helping them understand themselves and love and accept themselves to eventually start bringing changes. So thank you very much again. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know and I'll see you next time. Have a